rocket experimental test site.
In the mid-1930s, Adolf Hitler had granted funds for the army to build a rocket research facility. The location chosen for the new site was Peenemünde, on a remote island on the western edge of the Baltic Sea. In 1936, construction crews began turning the forested island into the most modern research center in the world. Peenemünde was an ideal location for a secret rocket base. Heavily forested, it could hide workshops, power plants, and test stands. Within 3 years, Peenemünde had expanded to include shops and living quarters for the community of 4,000 skilled workers living within its perimeter. Here, von Braun was given the scientific infrastructure and wind tunnels needed to carry out serious research on rocket technology. Known as Rocket City, Peenemünde became the birthplace of von Braun's deadly V-2 rocket.
In late 1944, Wernher von Braun had reasonably perfected his V-2 rocket. They were starting to shoot it against England with some success. Eventually they would kill some 6,000 British citizens from V-2 rocket attacks. Von Braun and his boss, General Walter Dornberger, were never satisfied with a 200-mile range of their V-2. They were always seeking ways to increase the range of the V-2 rocket. Von Braun had spoken many times about hitting New York City, 3,500 miles away. So von Braun was thinking long range. He was thinking about a flying machine that was capable of crossing the Atlantic Ocean. And he had mentioned many times that he had a rocket system called the A9 with a booster called the A10 that could hit New York City from anywhere in Germany.
But Wernher von Braun was not the only rocketeer in the race to build an aircraft to carry Hitler's warhead across the Atlantic. Like von Braun, Eugen Sänger had experimented with rockets since the 1930s and had dreamed of using manned rockets to explore outer space. Inspired by German films depicting huge rocket ships reaching the unexplored corners of the solar system, Sänger, an Austrian, had emigrated to Germany in 1937 to pursue his dreams.
Initially, Eugen Sänger's research work was into a commercial rocket transport that could fly between Tokyo and Berlin, between New York City and Berlin. However, that was all scrapped as soon as Hitler declared war on Poland. Being an opportunist, Eugen Sänger felt if I could somehow change this commercial transport into an orbital rocket bomber, I could continue my research.
By the time Sänger had a chance to convert his rocket plane design into the America bomber, it was late 1944. Unique in several ways, his conceptual vehicle was reusable and employed a revolutionary launch system.
Eugen Sänger's idea for a horizontally launched rocket plane was novel, brand new, fresh. It was reusable. It could be set up any place. It didn't require the thousands of people it required to launch a V-2 rocket. Sänger's horizontally launched rocket could be done with several hundred people. And the turnaround time was in matters of hours, not days, as von Braun's A9, A10 combination would require.
This sled device would have been powered with up to about 15 of the V-2 engines that Wernher von Braun had developed. So the sled would have had to contain tankage for large amounts of fuel to push this sled down the track to power the bomber, which was attached to it, up to a speed of around 1,200 miles an hour.
As the bomber reached a point near the end of the track, the vehicle would detach from the jet-powered sled and remain unpowered for just a few seconds before its onboard engine, designed by Sänger, ignited.
And it would have burned an onboard load of fuel weighing about 90 tons and pitched up to about a 60-degree climb angle. and remained under powered flight for approximately 3 to 4 minutes until the fuel was exhausted. At that point, the aircraft would pitch over, and because of its forward speed and centripetal force, would go into what is in effect a low Earth orbit at roughly 115 to 120 mile altitude.
At roughly 100 feet long and with a 40-foot wingspan, Zenger's craft was designed for hypersonic flight, meaning it could reach a speed of almost 14,000 miles per hour.
And somewhere over Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, this bomb internally in the bomb bay would be released in a ballistic arc designed to hit New York or Washington, D.C.
It was revolutionary. But Zenger's design was just too far ahead of its time. Unlike von Braun's America bomber, it did not have the benefit of a proven working component like the V-2.
In Werner von Braun's eyes, Eugen Sanger, the Austrian, was not equal to him nor his fellow rocketeers in Germany. He looked upon Eugen Sanger with disdain. He believed Eugen Sanger could not possibly come up with a rocket flying machine that could hit New York City, let alone fly around the globe and land back in Germany again.
Kennemeyer, unconvinced by rocket-powered America bombers, focused his attention on the last of the three competitors, Walter and Reimer Horten. He believed their design would be the one to successfully drop an atom bomb on New York. In 1944, the Nazis planned to build an America bomber capable of crossing the Atlantic and striking New York. The man in charge of the plan, Siegfried Kennemeyer, now turned to the Horten brothers. Another loophole in the Versailles Treaty had allowed German sailplane and glider development to boom in the 1930s. It was during that time that the Horten brothers had begun designing their radical aircraft. Walter Horten, a fighter pilot in the Battle of Britain, had transferred to Fighter Command in Berlin. There, he tirelessly promoted his younger brother Reimer's all-wing aircraft designs.